Dadnarok presents the Falcon and the Winter Soldier After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
Hey, we are discussing episode 2, The Star-Spangled Man. Episode 2, The Falcon and Winter Soldier. But before we begin, this is Dadnarok. We did an after show for The Mandalorian Season 2. We did an after show for WandaVision. We have a YouTube channel. Please go and like and subscribe at our YouTube channel. Just search Dadnarok. And join us for our podcast. We do an audio podcast each and every week on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, etc. But yeah, we're here to talk about The Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 2. What you think?
Dude, like we were talking about kind of before we get into this, our pre-production type setup, this show has me both loving it and completely hating it at the exact same time.
Why? Why hating it?
I can't stand anything about John Walker. I can't stand his face. I can't stand the fact that he's holding the shield. I did not realize how much of a Cap guy I was.
Right.
Until I see this schmuck holding the shield.
Until somebody else besides Steve Rogers, and you were like, nah.
Yeah, no. When they ended episode 1, it pissed me off seeing him with this shield. It just looked like some schmuck.
I know. Well, can you imagine this schmuck like standing toe to toe against Tony Stark or any other of the Avengers? Like, nah. Or picking up Mjolnir during the fight of Endgame? Nah.
What would his reaction be if all of a sudden Thor showed up?
Right.
He just all of a sudden you see him just laying in front of him and look at him.
How hilarious would that be? Because Thor has no filter, so he'd be like, this isn't Captain America. He doesn't care about the American government and their propaganda. He'd be like, who the hell is this?
Yeah, because the last time he really seen him was when he was swinging the hammer.
Yeah, they're exchanging hammers.
Yeah, they traded the hammer for the sword, and they were going at it, and he was pumped.
I love that little moment where they had the wrong ones, and he was like, he gave Mjolnir back to him, and he grabbed his new one, the big one. He was like, no, you take the little one.
Oh man, it's one of those. Let me see here. What's up, Plugs Bay?
Pug Plays. Hello, welcome.
Let's go. Yeah. So, I mean, I love the backstory of Bucky.
Yeah.
I think Bucky is actually going to wind up being the heart of the show. Kind of like how Wanda's, brokenness was the heart of WandaVision. Even though it's called Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think Sam is going to play second fiddle in the long run to the way this show is actually going to run.
Well, I think it's a little early to make that kind of call. We did have a Bucky heavy episode with he had a scene when they're with the therapist, the both of them, that was pretty great. But I can see what you're saying. Like, his brokenness is going to be a major theme of this show. Him struggling and trying to get through the other side of that.
Yes, I mean, before I go too far into it, what do you think?
I thought it was a good. It's living up to the expectations, I think, as far as just being a more action centric, intrigue centric, kind of that Captain America: Winter Soldier, like the movie had that 70s spy thriller kind of vibe to it, and I'm feeling it with this. I'm glad Bucky and Sam were like together like right away in the first few minutes of this episode, because we didn't get any of them together in the last episode. And I like that they're fleshing out this group, the Flag Smashers. We're getting to learn more about them. Like, they seem like just kind of a rebellion, like a rebellious kind of radical group. And they're the bad guys, but you're not quite sure like what their major intention is, if they're true to what they say that they're like, kind of what their propaganda says, or if they have some ulterior motives. I don't know. And the promise of Zemo in the next episode, once we got to the end, I mean, that was cool too.
That was cool seeing him. That was the point where I was like, oh, we're stopping there.
Yeah.
That's when it gave me like oh man, I wanted more. Give me more.
And Isaiah. We had an Isaiah show up in this episode. I called it last week. Thank God I did that. I claimed my stake in the first episode.
Yeah, you hit that right on the nail on the head. When I seen him and it started talking, I was like, I was saying, no way. I completely whiffed
Right.
on so many of my WandaVision theories.
Well, it kind of came up out of the blue too. I mean, even within the episode, like Bucky kind of pulls it out of his hat, like, we need to go see somebody. And like you as the viewer, you're like, who is Bucky even talking about? And
Yeah.
Bucky has to like inform us, like, oh, back in the was it the 60s or 70s? Like I fought this dude and he was basically being used by the government while Steve was on ice. And it just, we got an introduction. I think I called that maybe he was going to be related to Sam in some way, but that's not like a necessary function.
Yeah.
I think Sam seeing another African American gentleman like wear that shield and do the work that he did, and the kind of the suffering and the
Dude,
challenges that he faced,
the emotions, the pain.
Yeah, that
You've
actor,
seen
dude.
not even in the actor who played Isaiah,
Yeah,
but in Sam's eyes, in
sure. Yeah,
Sam's face,
yeah.
when he's learning all this in front of him.
And he's silent, like he's just absorbing it while Isaiah's talking about it when they go into it. We haven't gotten to that scene yet, but yeah, I mean, it was a good episode.
Yeah.
We can get into it.
Well, okay, then where do you want to start with this then?
So let's just kind of go through Bucky. We have to separate it here by character a little bit. So we open up with the revelation that there is a new Captain America, John Walker. It opens up. You and I were talking about how they don't play the big orchestral Marvel theme during the Marvel logo in the
That
very
was
front.
the first thing that pissed me off in this episode. I mean, there was a long list of things in this episode that they were hitting me hard, and it's all intentional.
Yeah, it was like throwing you off.
Everything they did was intentional.
Yeah.
So it was hard to be mad, but very easily to be aggravated.
Sure.
But yeah, that was the first thing. I mean, and then to me, he's the Philly fanatic. He's running on the field. He's a mascot. And the fact that he can throw the shield and catch it, that irritates me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so I don't know. You're pretty convinced that we are meant to really hate this guy, but I almost felt like this opening was almost like giving his backstory. He has jumped on the grenade. He was a 3-star, like a 3 silver star, guy in the military. Like he had all these accolades, and by all accounts, he seems like a pretty decent, good dude. Like that's all the information they kind of data dump onto the viewer, the front of this episode. Do you think? I mean, we get an inkling a little bit further in the story, but do you think a lot of that is false or fake information, or is there just more underneath the surface of this guy?
Oh no, I think it's all legit. I think he's just one of those just good old soldier boys.
Yeah.
That I mean, he did his job really well, and that's it. I mean, I don't think he's anything special, and he was just the right. I mean, rank captain and everything at the right time.
Right.
He had the right medals and right background and everything that they were looking for to go ahead and push as the new Captain America. So, I mean, I think he was just in the right place at the right time for this.
They wanted a poster boy, and they've already had issues with controlling Sam. I mean, Sam never signed those accords or whatever during Civil War. So they, for whatever reason, decided that Sam wasn't going to be their guy.
Well, I think Sam still had the option back prior to the show. Based on a conversation between him and Bucky a little bit later here in this episode.
Yeah.
He just decided it wasn't his. It just wasn't his. Yeah. He would not have felt right in that uniform, in that getup, holding the shield. He'd have been like an imposter.
Right.
Which I can understand.
So Bucky sees the introduction of this new Cap. Of course, he is very upset. He goes and sees Sam. Sam's on his way to do a mission, and Bucky just kind of tags along because he wants to talk to Sam about why the heck he was like. He goes to him directly. He's like, "Why did you give up the shield? Like now, this is what happens because you didn't keep it, for yourself." And he's mad because he's like, "Steve gave this to you, like." And we get a little bit more of his true feelings later in the episode.
Well, then we find out about the big three: aliens, androids, and wizards.
Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, and well, what's Gandalf? He brought Gandalf into it. That was great.
And he was like, "Hey, I read The Hobbit when it originally came out in 1937." I was like,
Oh,
"Wow, is that old?" I guess the book is that old. That's
that
funny.
was a fun, going back and forth. How Doctor Strange is just a wizard
Yeah.
without a hat.
Yeah, and I love that kind of stuff, like, just the rapport between these 2. You could tell they're kind of brothers in arms, and, they give each other a lot of crap, but they're gonna fight hard for one another too.
Yeah, I think they're gonna become really close
Yeah,
in this 6 episode period of time where we're gonna get to know them at this point.
right. So, yeah, he joins Sam on the plane, and this another kind of funny scene where Sam does his thing and he just flies right out with his jetpack because it's easy as pie for him. So Winter Soldier, Bucky, he doesn't go by Winter Soldier anymore.
Yeah, no,
If you were to call Bucky Winter Soldier these days, he'd be pretty upset.
that's kind of a slang for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he jumps out. Bucky jumps out. He's like, I don't need a parachute, and he crashes through some trees and lands on his back. And
Sam's like, I got all that on camera.
yeah, that was good. That was funny. It's hilarious because Bucky, when he walks and he moves, he kind of walks and moves like an old man does, like just kind of like he's sore. Like, but then once he's like running after a Mack truck, then he's running in that super soldier speed, just
Yeah.
like Cap used to.
Just kind of taps into it. It's like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. But they run into so basically Sam's mission is he's kind of spying on these flag smashers, this radical group that we saw from the first episode, and I guess they're stealing some vaccinations or some medicine or something.
Yeah.
I was a little foggy on some of the details on like the mission and briefings and like people's intentions. But
It's super. I'm convinced it's super soldier serum. It's
yeah,
not vaccines. That's what they're taking. They
yeah.
want to become. They want more super soldiers along with the flag smashers.
Well, we even see, let's see, Carly Morgenthau, I think is like the main, like the female, like redheaded flag smasher who seems to
Yeah.
be like the lead of this particular. I don't know if she's the lead of the whole thing or the lead of this particular faction within them. But I mean, she's
Dude, she
strong.
kicked Bucky right in the chest and bashed
Yeah,
in that semi behind. Okay, now did you find this odd? I found this a little weird. So Bucky jumps on the back of that semi, opens it up. There's a semi right behind him.
I thought that was weird too. I was like, why did you
Pick
attack?
the middle one. But
Right.
the
And
middle
why
one is
wouldn't the
one that
semi
had
behind it just like pull over and like be like, oh crap? And you know what I mean? Like, I
yeah.
don't know. It was kind of strange the way they set that up, but I
I
guess they
mean,
wanted that scene of him going into the windshield of the one behind them.
yeah. I mean, that was the only weird thing I thought was that whole fight scene. I thought the fight scene was fun.
Oh, and she cracked Red Wing in half. She just snatched him right out of the sky and broke him over
Oh,
her
and I
knee.
love how Bucky was like, "Man, I've been wanting to do that forever."
Yeah. So this is like kind of the show's MO. Like right up front, they'll do like a major action scene. This was intense. It was just like the flight through the canyons with Falcon in
Mhm.
the last episode. This huge fight between the different tractor trailers going down the road, and you've got vehicle action, and a bunch of super soldiers. Apparently, these flag smasher guys, have super strength and stuff. So they're more than a match for Bucky and Sam. Sam was having a hard time too. So as they're kind of getting their butts handed to them, here's a helicopter dropping down and drops John Walker and his pal, his sidekick,
Yeah,
down
his
to help.
sidekick. Yeah, that's about what he is.
I think he called himself Battlestar. That's the moniker that they gave him.
All I know is it was
You were feeling just the way Bucky and Sam were. You were like, not this guy.
it
No.
just made me sick, seeing him throw the shield out there, and then I mean he's fighting in ways that Cap wouldn't even fought in. I mean he's shooting people.
Yeah, he had a gun, which was Steve's MO in in the war in like World War II in the very beginning, but they quickly got rid of that. Well, they got rid of that in the comics back in the day because Marvel Comics wanted him to they moved on from him having a gun to him having a shield because they wanted the character to be more of a defender than somebody going around shooting people.
Yeah.
And I mean, we do see a little, but they pay homage to that in Captain America: The First Avenger. The actual movie. I mean, he's going through and he's got a pistol and stuff. But they show how Bucky is the guy behind the scenes with the sniper rifle, on top of the hill, taking care of business, a lot of the dirty work that you wouldn't want the big red, white, and blue Captain America, taking pictures, showing pictures of him shooting people.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, this guy, no shame. I mean, John Walker, he's got a pistol on him. He's packing.
Yeah, Nico, and legitimately, he's getting the crap kicked out of him pretty well too. Outside of him throwing the shield, he's getting the living crap kicked. And then he has the nerve to say, "Well, you guys are getting handed to you." We know what you done got gut kicked off the back of that semi.
Yeah.
So let's check that ego at the door a little bit, Mister Three honorable medals or whatever kind of medals he had.
Yeah. You just are not feeling this guy. You want this guy to get his.
No, yeah. And I don't think he's going to.
Do you feel like you're against this guy, like the show wants you to have these feelings, or you're just like, do you think the show wants you to have these feelings towards John Walker? Okay. So the show's doing its job.
I feel like they are messing with me.
Yeah.
Just like, in Endgame, when you just see Cap standing there, and we knew something was going to happen to Cap.
Right.
At that point, we at the end of that movie, we knew there was going to be something. And when he's standing there and he's going to go after Thanos, and we think he's going to go it alone, and all of a sudden you hear, Falcon, and you see Black Panther walk out, that emotion that you automatically get. Yeah. They mess with you that way. And that's why I think this is absolutely intentional on what they're doing to me. And it pisses me off.
They're going to pull your heartstrings.
They're just messing with me. Yeah. And I mean, and I honestly, I don't think he's going to get his just desserts. I don't think he's going away. He's going to be here for a while. I think we're going to see him down the road. I don't know how this is going to wrap. We're not going to get a satisfying ending, I don't think, out of this 6 episodes with him. The main story may come to an end.
Yeah.
But that loose end, I think, is still going to be out there.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll see where it goes. I think it's a great character. I think you're right. I think it is intentional that people are meant to just really dislike this guy. But
then he had the nerve to mention Banner and Tony.
Yeah.
In that actual interview.
Right.
No. I don't want to hear Tony's name come out of your mouth. That's no.
So what happens after this action scene? I mean, they get their butts handed to them. They ended up just kind of walking down the road, and New Cap or John Walker, I guess I'll call him John Walker from now on. He's in a truck. They pick him up. They do some hard convincing to get Bucky and Sam into this truck with them, as they're like, "Hey, you guys need to join us. We could be on the same team here."
The only reason they got in there because it was a 20-mile walk, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we're not that dumb."
Yeah. And as soon as his sidekick Battlestar mentions that his name is Battlestar, Bucky was like, "That's it, I'm out. Stop the truck.
I'm out." Well, then Walker has the nerve to say he wanted Cap's wingman,
right?
And he was like, "It's always the last sentence." And he gets up and he jumps out.
Yeah, because he was saying the right things. He was like, how could I possibly step into Steve's shoes? I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to replace Steve. I'm trying to be my own thing and do the best I can, which is the right thing to say, right? It was probably getting on Sam's good side. And then he basically, at the end of that, he just denigrated Sam. Sam's his own guy. Sam's been doing his own thing. He's not identified as just Cap's friend. You know what I mean? It's like, I need Cap's wingman because, I need an additional sidekick, basically.
Yeah.
Falcon's doing his own thing. He doesn't need to be, the sidekick to the new Cap. No thanks.
He fought in the biggest war that this world has ever seen.
Right.
He doesn't need some schmuck, saying, "I need you to be my sidekick."
And Steve never thought of Bucky or a Sam as a sidekick. Steve was always like, I would not want to walk into any battle without these guys.
Well, Steve put his whole career on the line for Bucky.
Yeah.
I mean, he was convinced that he can save Bucky and turn him and get him out of those ways. Yeah. So he didn't, like I said, he didn't see them as sidekicks. He's seen them as brothers.
Right. And when Steve's world was crashing down around him, and he learned that Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D., and he didn't know who to trust, Sam was the only guy on the planet that him and Black Widow could go to and depend on, not even knowing that he was had his own thing going with this jetpack and these wings. But you mentioned you need to watch that movie. You should watch Winter Soldier
I
soon.
want to
Kind of
watch
their
it again.
origin story.
It's
It's
been so long. I mean, we went back and watched Ultron, so it's almost. I'd
yeah.
like to know what the boost on Disney Plus is for this movie.
Oh, it's got to be like between Ultron for WandaVision and
Yeah.
Winter Soldier for this. Yeah.
But I mean, they're sitting down, they're on the plane, they're flying back, and they're having a conversation. And Sam's like, "We got absolutely nothing."
Mm-hmm.
And then Bucky sits down next to him. He said, "Well, not exactly."
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, "What do you mean not exactly?"
Yeah, Bucky's like, we need to talk to someone, and he's mentioned somebody in mind. And you, as a viewer, you're like, I don't know who he's talking to. Is he talking about old Steve or no? So we cut to Sam and Bucky arriving in Baltimore, and they walk up to this house in the middle of Baltimore, and there's a younger kid that opens the door, and anyway, they open up, and Bucky gives a little bit of backstory about this guy named Isaiah Bradley, right?
Yeah, dude, and it gets real fast.
They go down some really important, like resonant real life themes as far as it just made me think of the old like Tuskegee guys, how they were back in the day, they were like testing, they were given like placebo vaccines to the black, I think they were pilots, just to like watch them suffer from syphilis. That's like real life stuff.
Yeah.
And it kind of harkens back to that.
Yes, I mean, so we go to this house. Well, first there's a really fun interaction with the kid. I think this is important just because it's lighthearted. Because a lot of the scene there's nothing lighthearted about it. It's heavy.
Yeah.
The whole way, the whole theme of it's heavy. But they're walking down.
Isaiah, he wasn't happy to see these guys at his door. That's
No,
for sure.
no. So we had the interaction with the little boy. You have Sam walking down. Little boy's like, "Oh, my dad said you're Black Falcon."
Black Falcon.
So why am I Black Falcon? Is it because I'm black? He's like, "Yeah." So are you Black Kid?
It's like, he got him.
Oh, it's great. But yeah, they get to the house, and Bucky knocks on the door, and this younger male answers the door, and he's like, he basically says, "You're in the wrong spot. You're not coming in."
Yeah, that guy doesn't live here. Get out of here.
Yeah. Then basically he says, I'm so and so. I knew him from so and so place. I don't remember the exact.
Yeah,
place.
I'm the guy from some bar in some city, and he'll know what that means. And he does. And he brings him into the house, but he still feels like the last time he saw this guy in person, he was Winter Soldier back in like the 60s, and they fought.
Yeah.
And apparently Isaiah got the better of him. Isaiah took like half his arm.
It sounds like he beat the snot out of him left and right.
Yeah, and Isaiah you can tell he lives sort of a tortured life. He was done dirty. He says even as much. Like, Captain America got thawed out and became this big hero, but for the work that he did for the government back in the day, he got 30 years in prison. So there's a very interesting backstory as to what Isaiah's had to deal with.
Between prison and being poked and prodded, and he was made of almost a villain and not lifted up. And unfortunately, it fits with the times. So they're playing it appropriately with the times that would have happened, which is
I got to name drop the actor Carl Lumley, who plays Isaiah Bradley. I just thought he was intense, dude. He was almost had tears coming out of his eyes when he was so angry he was almost crying.
Dude, he grabbed that like sardines can,
threw it like the shield, and it stuck in the wall like the shield.
Yeah,
whoa,
it was crazy. But there is one interaction which really stuck between Bucky and Isaiah, and you can see it in Sam's eyes. He is so in pain and so torn and so angry, and basically every emotion you can think of someone going through, this man was actually going through it at this time. Mm-hmm. So let's check this out real quick and talk about it.
Not a killer anymore. You think you can wake up one day and decide who you want to be? It doesn't work like that. Well, maybe it does for folks like you.
Isaiah, the reason we're here is because there's more of you and me out there.
dude. I mean,
intense stuff.
It's so good. And I can only get a small clip of that, interaction there.
Yeah, because that was a larger scene that you had to like kind of cut together.
Yeah. I mean, he's referring to, Bucky's struggling with that now.
Yeah.
The fact that he's trying to wake up and be somebody else.
Bucky's constantly struggling with trying to be the better person, trying to lay down the Winter Soldier. And that's something that he's basically he's telling himself almost every day. It's like, no, like you are this monster that they turned you into, and he's fighting that every day. And for Isaiah to almost confirm it, like, no, you can't just change. That I don't know what that does to Bucky, but
then the line he breaks out, which made it even heavier, is, but maybe for people like you. So he didn't say as a white man you can do it. But I mean, it's very, very easy to read into that on what he's referring to.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, even later, once that whole thing happened, because at the end of that, Sam tried saying something, and at that point, Isaiah just completely flipped out, and he told everyone out. And his nephew, gently, turned Sam to walk him out. So there was nothing. It's like he wasn't angry that they were there. But he was like, you know what? We've got to give him a space.
Yeah.
And then
once this is the last we've seen of Isaiah.
No,
I guarantee we're going to see more of him.
Yeah, I would be mad if this was all we got of him.
Oh yeah, I would be too. You can't introduce a character like that and then not do anything with him.
Yeah,
we'll see him.
And as as real as he felt, as authentic that he felt, the whole thing, that whole scene of him in the house. Was fantastic.
Yeah. So afterwards, I mean, they're outside on the street, and Sam is pissed. He's like, "How could you not tell me about this guy? Like, how am I not in the know?" And Bucky said he didn't even tell Steve about this guy.
Steve didn't even know.
It was just too much. It was just too much for them to.
Well, he said Isaiah's been through enough,
right?
So he didn't tell anybody extra because he was, in his own way, being sympathetic.
Yeah.
To Isaiah.
Right.
Which could have been a double-edged sword. I mean, if he told him about him, they may, Rogers may have had a way to correct the wrongs that were done to him.
Right. And maybe he didn't want to like put that burden on Steve too. Like Steve had enough of his plate with the Avengers and stuff. Like to learn that your legacy after you were frozen was like the abuse of these other people, giving them the super soldier serum and that kind of thing. Like, who knows what that would have, done to mess with Steve's morale or thought process of like his legacy and stuff. So I get it. And it makes good storytelling excuse as to why this is the first time we've heard of Isaiah, if he was somebody that was in operation back in the 60s and 70s. But yeah, I mean, great scene, great plot, great character stuff.
But then we get the whole, like, what would happen, say, in the wrong area in Louisville or the wrong area here in Dayton, where there's a white man and a black guy arguing in the street in the wrong neighborhood.
Cops pull up, whoop, 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 whoop.
And then immediately they target the wrong person.
Yeah, they look at Bucky and they're like, is this guy bothering you, sir?
Yeah.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Then he asks for identification. He's like, no, I'm not giving him any. Yeah. And then the other cop realizes who it is. He's like, yeah, no, we're
so sorry, Mr. Wilson. Yeah.
Yeah. But then Bucky gets arrested. So they flip the whole thing.
So sorry, Mister, but you have a warrant out for your arrest.
I was like, hold on, why? You missed your therapy. That was a condition of his pardon, which was which is interesting. If you're completely pardoned, why are you still being held to, like, say, a parole officer, essentially?
It may just be like a conditional pardon. Like, I'm sure there's just like a writer written up at the time of the pardon, like, you are pardoned if A, B, and C. And
you got to do this for so long.
Yeah.
Which I think he's out of now.
Yeah, I don't know. So we get to the jail, I guess, and somebody has gotten Bucky out of jail, and it turns out it's Mr. Walker. John Walker just comes in, and the therapist is there, and she's talking to Sam, and they're like, who got him out? And he's like, very proud of himself, pat himself on the back.
Well, that, and he also tells her that he's freed up from this obligation now. She's like, under whose authority? He's like,
yeah, me.
It's like, hold on,
my authority.
You have, how much? Yeah, no.
Right.
But,
what is your rank there, Captain?
Yeah, exactly.
So essentially where we get to is that we've got like one last therapy session for the therapist to kind of clear Bucky and make him good for mission duty, I guess. So Sam and Bucky, they sit in front of this therapist.
And yes, the Sam part's funny. She's like, Bucky, come on. Sam, you too. No, I wasn't asking.
yeah, she talks very direct the way she did with Bucky in the first episode. But they do a couple of exercises that are really funny. The one that stuck was when they had to look in each other's eyes.
The soul gazing,
which they quickly turn into a staring contest.
It's like, you guys aren't having a staring contest. Jesus.
They're like, get closer, and their knees were touching, and they were like, how can we get closer? And then Sam just pulls himself in way further where their legs are interlocked.
Basically, he knees them in the nuts.
Like, we're pretty close.
Well, you wanted this.
Yeah, that was good, like buddy cop kind of.
But then she's like, she tells him to say something and not be bullcrap.
Right.
And this scene here, I think, may be almost one of the linchpins of the entire show.
Steve believed in you. He trusted you. He gave you that shield for a reason. That shield, that is everything he stood for. That is his legacy. He gave you that shield and you threw it away like it was nothing. So maybe he was wrong about you. And if he was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me.
That here's voice crack in there.
Yeah, the wrong about me part. That's what he is struggling with terribly. Right. And it's just the inner struggle that Bucky's going through, and that's the part of the story that I am really enjoying. I mean, I don't know what it says about me, because I loved watching Wanda go through all her pain in the past one, and now I'm enjoying the same thing in this one.
Oh, you loved me to see me in some pain growing up.
Oh, yeah,
physical pain.
But it just may be, watching you fall through your door was hilarious. I'll never forget that. And then you kicking me out, in turn.
Right. You just need to get out.
But it's almost, and the reason I think I may like it as much is it's showing a level of humanity.
Yeah.
In these characters, which I don't think you always get in these movies.
Yeah, it's almost as though both Sam and Bucky are struggling with living up to how Steve sees them, because Steve sees them for the heroes and decent human beings and like good guys that they are, and they're both separately struggling. Like, am I actually, because they both adore Steve and admire Steve, look up to Steve, as the hero that the entire planet does. So they're both struggling with the fact, like, am I as good of a person? Am I deserving of the, his praise kind of deal?
Yeah.
So they're both going through the same thing and kind of struggling with it in different ways.
Did you get the same feeling out of what Sam said in return? I felt like one of the reasons Sam didn't accept the shield is he felt like the country would not accept a black man as Captain America.
Yeah, I think Sam cut the conversation short because Sam didn't want to get into it. I think they would have been there for hours. And he says to Bucky as much. There's you and Steve
wouldn't understand.
Possibly just would not understand why I didn't take the shield, which is fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's more there that Sam just doesn't want to address, or maybe even can't even put into words as far as why he didn't. But he layers it down to like, I thought I was doing the right thing.
Yeah,
that's it.
He didn't foresee them doing this.
Right.
Yeah. But man, I mean, that whole interaction, and then when they walk out of the actual precinct, and Johnny Walker's there, along with his little
Johnny Walker,
his little sidekick,
his side piece or sidekick.
This took a weird turn.
Whatever. But yeah, he's once again imploring them, like, hey, come on, join the team, like, be a part of this, group, and we'll work together. And Sam lays it out. He's like,
gave him a legit reason why they shouldn't.
Like, you are bound by the government, and you got all this red tape to deal with. We are free agents. It just doesn't make sense for us to, stifle ourselves by linking up with you. We'll do things our own way. And they take off, and John stops him, and he's like, "Well, then, let's get one thing straight. You better stay out of my way."
Yeah,
And that's when our first kind of inkling that this guy isn't the all-American, good boy that the media is portraying him as. He's maybe he's maybe a little full of himself.
Oh, a little?
Yeah, maybe a lot.
Yeah. He probably sits in front of the mirror, combing that chin of his.
Right.
That's funny. Man. I love the fact that they walked away. I love the fact that they were like, tough, go away. I mean, there's nothing that you can actually contribute to me.
Yeah.
They knew that they were better than them.
Right.
But there was a whole interaction where where Bucky's like, we got to take the shield.
Yeah.
And we know they get the shield. I mean, they give it to us in the trailer. It's a part of our opening when Sam's throwing it into the tree.
Yeah.
So how do they?
Is there another shield, or do they literally take the shield from John Walker? I don't know.
Or does John fall?
Sure, right.
Or does he actually Captain America die again?
By the hands of these Flag Smasher guys.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a super soldier. What if this whole conversation and teaming up with Zemo at the end of the episode here goes sideways?
Right.
So, I mean, they may come about the shield in a way where they don't have to physically take it.
Yeah, so that's where we kind of end the episode as far as Sam and Bucky's story is they're apparently going to go pay a visit to Zemo. And we see him briefly in like a jail cell. So that'll be for a very interesting episode 3. But we really didn't talk about the Flag Smashers at all. I mean, I don't know if we can summarize kind of their perspective, but as far as this episode, the Flag Smashers, we learned a little bit more about how they're viewed by the public or the people down on the ground. They kind of see them as Robin Hood figures.
Yeah.
And that they're kind of fighting the good fight kind of thing.
One world, one people.
Yeah, and we learn about the character, kind of the lead Flag Smasher there, Carly. And
I think this is pretty big with her being the lead. Because you think about what Marvel's doing, they're putting more female, strong characters in the forefront.
Yeah, and this is a gender swap because the character of Flag Smasher, it's not like I don't know if it's a group, but I definitely know it's like a villain named Flag Smasher, and his name is Carl Mogenthal. So they just changed it to Carly. So I don't know if she's like this character's daughter, or if they just went ahead and gender swapped it.
I think they just gender swapped it. I think that would make most sense.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm still a little fuzzy as far as what their motives are. I guess maybe we haven't really seen enough in the show to know specifically exactly.
There's another group that attacks them at the end.
Yeah, the power brokers.
Yeah, the power brokers, and I think if I understand correctly, they're the ones that are actually in charge of the super soldier serum, and they're the ones trying to sell it to the United States.
Oh, okay.
So there's all that, and what wound up happening because we see a text message on her phone, on Carly's phone.
Yeah, you took what was mine. I'm going to find you and kill you.
Yeah, and it's them. So it's. I'm not quite sure where they fit into this because I think they're kind of a middle tier bad guy here. I don't think they're like a top tier bad guy. I think the bad guy are the power brokers who we just barely seen. Mm-hmm. And I really believe there's a big part of the U.S. government that's going to be a part of it because they're trying to get the super soldier serum back and create more of their own super soldiers, which would be in the comics. It becomes both Johnny Walker and his sidekick guy. They both get the serum in the comics. So I think they're either trying to make more of their own and prevent another government from getting it, or they're trying to destroy. I don't know where they're going with it. I mean,
I don't know, and it's still early. There's a lot of intrigue here, but we did learn a little bit more about these Flag Smashers, kind of their dynamic within the group, and there's more to come with that for sure. And I don't know how Hydra and or Zemo is linked to them at all, if all. But we'll find more about that episode 3.
Yeah, next Friday, man. I'm looking forward to it. But until then, what do we got going on?
Once again, we're Dadnarok. We're here each and every Friday night at 10 p.m. to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Check out our YouTube channel. Just search Dadnarok. It's up there in the little logo, Dadnarok. That's how you spell it, Chris.
Nice
and
to know.
go to go to dadnarok.com. You'll find episodes of our podcast. You'll find links to our T Public site where you can get Dadnarok merch.
Good job.
And yeah, thank you. And that's about it. Until next time.
Okay, guys. Well, like you said, 10 o'clock every Friday night. The after show comes on, so we can't wait to see you guys then. But until then, go ahead and keep it cheesy.
See ya.